with Keith Auger Wetzeline, working on making sure that our producers are finding out about deadlines and getting their applications, which one is due today. And if you don't get that application in, you're no longer eligible for any of the emergency funding coming down. So there's been a huge push in that area. And within our regenerative grazing program that we're talking about today, we're here to support ranchers within Blackfeet communities developing their own forms of regenerative grazing management unique to each ranching operation. We're working towards a program rooted in Amscabi-Bikani cultural science, stemming from specific and management practices suited to our Blackfeet rancher rangelands, rancher profitability, acknowledging the unique challenges faced by each of our ranchers in each of their specific land and weather conditions and ownership structures. Okay, I'm gonna hand it over to the Regenerative Grazing Project Manager, Andrew Berger, to share a bit more on what our programs offer locally and to introduce our team. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, Kim. I hope for everybody, I have a screen being shared here now too, which I'll talk about in a minute, but we just want to take a moment to introduce some of the resources we have available and then hand it over to Dallas and the Audubon team as well as partners on this webinar. And as I mentioned, I've had the joy and honor of working with the Amscabi-Bikani community over the last 5 years. And so I program managed the Regenerative Grazing Initiative over the last 2 years with Bikani Lodge Health Institute. And we really hope that this introduction today can pave the way for working with more ranchers on this call and in the community in the near future. And so near the top of the chat, you'll also see a link to a short document that introduces our program and what we offer. And so I'm sharing that on the screen now, and feel free to download this from the chat if that works for you, or if you'd rather have a printed copy, we'll mail you one or drop one off or figure out how to get you this information. And there's no overhead cost to participate in the program. We partner to provide management planning, monitoring, pilot scale rotational fencing infrastructure, small scale stock water development to support multi-paddock grazing, snow fences to support drought resiliency and water infiltration and more. And we have internship programs each summer where local interns of all ages are trained in soil sampling, regenerative grazing practices, cultural science methodologies, and more. And we want to give a big shout out to the Browning High School Ag class with us today too. It's especially great to have our next generation of local ranchers and land stewards with us. So the information sheets also ask for your feedback here, so we can better understand how we can partner with you in the future. And so please feel free, to fill that out in the form or just get us information, however works well for you as it's described. And we're in the process of planning a handful of events, some of which will be announced quite soon and some we can share now. For one, we are in the process of planning an in-person workshop with Dallas and Ranching for Profit this summer. And we're looking for feedback from today on how to structure that. We'll also have more upcoming events this winter. Actually, tonight is another discussion with the partners at the Western Sustainability Exchange team and their monthly bull sessions for ranchers in the Highline, discussing regenerative grazing success stories and challenges. Cooper Hibbard is actually presenting tonight with others, who some of you know from our local regenerative grazing workshop last fall. I'm sure that'll be a fantastic event. And if you're interested in joining that or that group, please let us know and we'll connect you. And like last year, we'll also be co-hosting winter grazing visits with Cooper Hibbard and Stephen Livestock over the next few years. And some dates will be going out about that and this upcoming seasonal workshop schedule in the next couple of weeks. We also have snow fence pilot projects built locally this winter, and we're testing how these different designs store snowpack and infiltrate water in response to drought. And we're going to be hosting events there to invite those to come see how that's working. And then finally, like Kim mentioned, we wanted to mention our winter wellness ski program. If we haven't mentioned enough already, we're going to throw that link in the chat so that folks can sign up, and we'd love to have you join us out on the land. And so with that, I wanted to introduce our team and let our team introduce themselves quickly. We have a number of our core team on the call today, including Latrice Tatsy, Tyrell Fenner, Kristen Kipp, as Kim mentioned, Michaela Young. So just wanted to pass it around very quickly, just to let folks introduce themselves and share some of their background and what they bring to the team, because we're all here to serve you, answer some questions, and support this regenerative grazing program as well as others. So I'm going to hand it over here and stop the screen share for now, and we'll all be here for the Q&A as well. So thanks again so much for being here. It's wonderful to see everybody. And we also wanted to mention for the ranchers on the call, if that sounds good to everybody, it would be fantastic just to get a short introduction to yourselves and some of your questions coming into this, if not just an introduction to your ranch operation and how you may have worked with us before or are looking to consider some of these regenerative grazing practices. And it's just fantastic to see everybody here virtually in one place for today. So thanks again for taking the time out and for joining, and it's great to see everybody. So I'm going to pass it over to our team, and then if ranchers on the call would be able to share a little bit about themselves, just introduce themselves, that would also be fantastic. And then we'll hand it over to the ARMP team to introduce themselves quickly. So perhaps Tyrell, if you wanted to get started introducing yourself, that would be great. Bounce it to another Pecunny Lodge team member after that.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, my name is Tyrell Fenner, and I've been with Pecunny Lodge for about a year now. And I have a background in hydrology, and I've been working on the team's climate adaptation plan, which is part of the ARMP as well, and PLHI and the tribe all kind of working together on it. And so I'm mainly here on the nation, on the ground, kind of doing installs with regenerative grazing and the snow fences. I do some outreach and stuff, and we just all work together designing paddocks and plans, and yeah, that's mainly it. And I'll go ahead and pass it over to Latrice.
Okay, everybody, it's good to see all the participants and the local ranchers join. I'm out of words. I'm just happy to have everyone here and excited to see what kind of work I could do with the interns this summer. So appreciate you all being here.
Awesome. And maybe, I'll just say quickly, if our other Pecunny Lodge team members on the call, I'm seeing Michaela and Kristen and Will, wouldn't mind introducing themselves quickly too, that'd be wonderful. Maybe I'll say Kristen, if you wouldn't mind going next, if you're there, that'd be great.
Here, where's my, oh, there we are. Hi, Kristen Kipp. Pretty new to Pecunny Lodge. I just started not too long ago doing producer outreach, mostly working with FSA programs, but also like non-FSA stuff. And I am a ag producer in my community of many different things, mostly cattle, but we have just about everything. My son is super into, he's a little businessman and he raises hogs, and I mostly just kind of assist him, and chickens, lambs, and lots of other things. But I am actually really interested and excited to for what we're going to go over. I think this is a really cool topic, and that's it. I just want to welcome everybody, and I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Michaela, would you mind introducing yourself quick, and then we'll hand it over to ARMP team and our partners at Blackfeet Environmental quickly as well. I see Jermaine's on the call.
Sure. Hey, everybody. Yeah, my name is Michaela Young, and I'm the Director of Development with Pecunny Lodge Health Institute. And I've had the, like you said, the honor and the joy of working with this team since around 2015, when I was brought in by Lauren Birdrattler to work with the ARMP team on water policy and development activities. And ever since then, it's just been, one of the great joys of my life to work with Kim and Will and yourself, Andrew, and just doing this good work with these great people. And my primary function with the team is to just do the best job listening that I possibly can to leaders like Kim and folks in the community as far as what the real needs are, and then go search out funding, private and federal funding, to align with those actual needs. And so, I'm here to serve, here to learn. And my family background is agriculture and forestry. My family has a farm, and they also do some ranching in southern Idaho. And so I really passionate about agriculture and forestry, and just want to do my best for the team, and I'm happy to be here to learn. So thank you.
Thanks, Michaela. Yeah, before we hand it over to the ARMP team quickly to introduce themselves, Tremaine, I see you're on the call from the Blackfeet Environmental Office. If you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself quickly, that'd be fantastic.
Okay, everyone, sorry, my mouth is a little bit messed up. I had some dental work done this morning, but welcome. I am also new to the team. I've been with Blackfeet Environmental and had the esteemed privilege of working under Kim Paul and with the Blackfeet Climate Adaptation Plan, and I now serve as the Climate Change Coordinator. And new to the PLHI team, climate change practices and strategies we can pull together, and I am just here in support of everyone on the call. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Tremaine. It's great to have you here representing Blackfeet Environmental, as well as our partnership with Pecunny Lodge. So yeah, maybe I'll just hand it over to Will quick to introduce the ARMP team, and then maybe after Will, some the ranchers on the call from the community who are able to share just a little bit about themselves and background. That would be fantastic, before handing it over to Audubon and the Ranching for Profit folks, if that sounds good.
Great, thanks, Andrew.
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks. This is Will Seeley. I wear a couple of hats kind of related to this project. I work both for the tribe as the acting director for the Agriculture Resource Management Plan, and happy to report we're getting close. It's been a long, winding road to getting that plan together. We're getting pretty close to coming to getting that finalized and getting that out. And these types of educational opportunities are a large part of implementing of that plan. And I think a few of y'all on the call have been involved here and there over the past few years getting this plan together. So just excited to have these great partners with Audubon, Pecunny Lodge Health Institute, and others to provide these educational opportunities and all of that to look at how we can support you guys on the ground. And my other hat, I also work for Pecunny Lodge Health Institute as a project manager, looking at the feasibility for some multi-species processing facility here, and want to utilize a lot of these educational opportunities to look at how we can support those that might be interested in something like that. And I believe we have our lead consultant for that project on the call as well, I saw. And then, but anyways, I just want to thank all the partners for pulling this together, and thank you all for joining. And I'll throw it over to Alice as our other team member under the ARMP.
Hi, this is Alice McNamara. I'm the GIS Tech and Outreach Coordinator for the ARMP and been working for them for about 2 years. So yeah, I'll just pass it along to the ranchers.
Andrew, do you have an order in your mind, or you want to?
I don't. Yeah.
Out? Okay.
We can call out, and if folks just want to share your name even or where you're calling in from, that's great. Or if you'd like to share some more about your operation and some questions on your mind, that would be fantastic as well. Jimmy, of course, if there are questions from the class at the onset, we'd love to hear those too. But let's see, maybe I'll throw it to Ray, if that's all right, Ray, just to kick things off.
That's fine. Hello, everybody. My name's Ray Champ. I'm married to Jimmy Champ. She's teaching in school right now. I know most everybody, I've worked with a lot of you this summer. We're pretty excited about this program. Jimmy and I are next in line to take over our ranch. And I read David Pratt's book, and that's why I'm here, Ranching for Profit, because we are very excited about the education of making the ranch work for us instead of the other way around. And that's why we're in this, because typically the thing that really interested us was we do things a lot with tradition. And a lot of times for us up here, I did get to talk with my in-laws, and we talked them in. I'm married in, I'm from Crow originally. And we talked them into moving our calving dates. And today, ironically enough, we're having a pretty bad snowstorm here. That wind's pretty sharp. It's a calf killer. And we moved to April 1st. And my father-in-law, we was just out putting some feed before I got on, some lick. And he was very excited about the move. And so that education is what really excites us. We know it's not an overnight deal, but anything we can do. Obviously, Jimmy works in town. I have an occupation. I announce rodeos for a living. So we're trying to balance everything. And this program is very exciting. We're happy to be a part of it. And thank you all for your hard work.
It's fantastic to have you with us, Ray. Yeah, thanks so much for sharing some of that background. Let's see, maybe I'll toss it over to Doug if we're coming through there. Doug, do you mind introducing yourself quickly?
Yeah, I'm Doug Loring, pretty much CEO of Natural Warrior Farms and Herbs, and we produce products, and we also products and different modalities for possibly healing teas, things like that, tinctures, liniments, etc. We are primarily concerned about improving our soil, and so that we could possibly increase our amount of meat production that we will then sell as quarters, halves, and wholes. And looking forward to listening and hear what else I might be able to do for some profit. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Doug. Great to hear you. Let's see, I'll throw it over to Ricky. Ricky, if we're coming through, it'd be great to hear from you. Just however you'd like to introduce yourself and some about your operation.
Yeah, hi, thanks, Andrew. Let me start my video. I'm actually dual Zooming right now, so I have to pause one Zoom to get on the other. So I'm here representing my dad, who, we're fourth or fifth generation, I'm not really sure which part, ranchers for the Blackfeet Nation, and we're just here to learn more about ranching for profit. This is my son, Cal. He's trying to watch Shrek right now, so. And we're really appreciative of this opportunity that we have with PLHI and with you, Andrew. Yeah, I think that's about it. And we're excited to learn more about ranching for profit because it's tough just maintaining.
Right on. Yeah, thanks so much, Ricky. Totally, we're excited to learn more today too. Robin, I just saw you jumped in. Robin Johnson, if you're hearing us, we're just doing a short round of introductions. If you wouldn't mind, just however you'd like to introduce yourself and share a little bit about your operation. I see a thumbs up, so I'll hand it over to you for a moment if you can hear us.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Okay, great. I'm Robin Johnson. I don't know why my camera's messed up, but I'll figure it out in a little bit. With the Rising Wolf Johnson Ranch, we're a family operation, 6 generations, have some amazing family members that help keep the ranch operating. And yeah, I've been very interested in ranching for a profit for a long time. And I'm so excited that we were able to get this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. It's great to hear you. And yeah, we're super excited to finally connect our crew with Ranching for Profit as well. Let's see, I'm seeing some phone numbers. We're just doing a short round of introductions before handing it over to the Ranching for Profit folks. Maybe quickly while I see it, I see Dylan, our partner, Dylan DeRozier on the call here from the Nature Conservancy. And Dylan, if you'd like to introduce yourself quickly, that'd be fantastic.
Thanks, Andrew. Okay, everyone. My name is Dylan DeRozier. I work for the Nature Conservancy here at Blackfeet Nation, and really glad to see all of you.
Thanks so much, Dylan. Likewise. Yeah, while we're doing that too, and some other partners, I see Dave Carter. Dave, if you'd like to introduce yourself quickly, that'd be great as well.
If he doesn't chime in here in a sec, it looked like he might have had to jump off for just a couple minutes and he'll be back, I think.
I was just gonna say on the chat, it says I'll be offline for about 30 minutes.
Oh, perfect. Thank you, Ray. I missed that too. Oh, I see. Perfect. Okay, great. Well, let me see who else. Colleen, is that Colleen Gustafson then? Colleen, would you like to introduce yourself? Maybe she's popped out for a moment too. Well, we can come back to that during the Q&A as well, if folks are able to introduce themselves later. Let me see. Matt Harrington, would you like to introduce yourself quickly?
Yeah, my name is Matt Harrington. I'm with NACDC. We do quite a bit of ag lending here on the res, Blackfeet Reservation. And yeah, big fan of Ranching for Profit. I met Dave a few years back at a conference, and yeah, just excited to hear what they have to say, and love to pass it on to producers. So
awesome, great to have you here, Matt. Well, great. There might be a couple other phone numbers I'm not recognizing too. If there are any other ranchers, particularly on the call, who would like to introduce themselves ahead of time for the team to have in mind while we're giving this presentation, just a little bit on your ranch operation and kind of what you're bringing here today. If you're with your interest in Ranching for Profit, that would be fantastic. So I'll open the floor for that, and then maybe hand it over to the Audubon team before sending it over to Ranching for Profit. So if any ranchers on the call who haven't gotten to introduce themselves yet, please feel free. Cool. Okay. Well, we can come back around to all of that at any time, it sounds like, and especially during the Q&A at the end to learn some more about what everyone's already doing and how all of this applies. But maybe for now, I'll send it over to the Audubon team, and Christian and Amy and Peter introduce a little bit about the Conservation Ranching Program, a really exciting program that we're growing a partnership with and trying to figure out how that'll best apply to some ranchers locally as well. So I'll pass it over to them before Dallas and the Ranching for Profit team take it away.
Great, thanks, Andrew. And I'll just add really quickly too, if there's for some reason you think someone won't have your email to share, you want to make sure that we get this recording to you and notes and are able to follow up and everything, and want to share your contact information in the chat as well, that's always welcome. So I'm going to hand it over to Christian, our Montana Audubon Conservation Ranching Manager.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me today. Really appreciate it. I know some of your faces, and I'll just keep it brief, but I'm the Conservation Ranching Manager for Montana Audubon, and we offer a bird-friendly certification and seal to ranchers who have superior land stewardship practices, which are much in line with what Dallas will be teaching you about today. So yeah, that seal can add value, and it kind of travels with your product and tells the story to consumers about your excellent land stewardship practices. So that's all I have to say today, but if you're interested in that at all, feel free to reach out to me via email or phone at Montana Audubon. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. And I just wanted to say real quick before we hand it over to, oh, sorry, Amy, I'll let you take it away too, but to Ranching for Profit, we noticed at least one other rancher. I see Sadie on the call. Sadie, if you would like to introduce yourself really quick, if you wouldn't mind. We just are doing a short round of introductions before the presentation to get to know a little bit about ranchers on the call and operations, current practices, and any questions coming into the Ranching for Profit session here today. Are we coming through okay, Sadie? It looks like you might have just gone off mute. Oh,
Can you hear me now?
yeah, perfect. Yep, hearing you loud and clear.
So I live on a family ranch outside of East Glacier, and I am a school teacher, so I'm doing double duties right now. But yeah, just getting in. I missed the first part. I just heard you calling my name.
You didn't miss too much, Sadie. I'll say we're just doing introductions and about to hand it over to the Ranching for Profit team and Dallas here. We do have one short document in the chat here from Pecan Lodge Health Institute introducing our program. So if you want to download that, we talked about that quickly, but that'll be available afterwards as well. So you did not miss much. And this is all recorded as well for future watching. So yeah, thanks so much for joining.
Thank you.
I'll hand it back over to you, Amy, or otherwise we can.
I was just going to let
Dallas.
Peter say hello, and then Dusty Downey as well was able to join, so he can just quickly say hello as well. But I appreciate everyone being able to hear each other say hi.
Hey everyone, really grateful to be here and see some familiar faces. Peter Dudley, I'm the Big Sky Watershed Corps member with Montana Audubon, and a little bit about my background. Interested in ecological restoration and some experience in small scale agricultural production and horticulture, and really excited to see how value added agriculture can help wildlife too and people. So that's about it.
We can see you, Dusty.
Is he there? Can you see? Oh, there you are.
Oh, hey guys. Hey everybody. My name's Dusty Downey. I'm a rancher up in Northeast Wyoming, and I also helped found the Audubon Conservation Ranching Program 10 years ago. Pretty close, near and dear to my heart as a rancher, and I know that all the good intentions and all the conservation in the world don't really mean squat unless your checkbook balance is out, and so that's what Audubon's trying to do with our program. Last year, as we oversee the Rocky Mountains, about 5 million pounds of beef and about 3,000 calves went into the program. Most of that garnered a pretty decent premium, and so it's a way for Audubon to kind of help ranchers keep ranching and keep those open spaces open, and that Dallas puts on. And every time I learn something new, and like I said, I always appreciate the fact that no matter what we do, unless the checkbook balances, it doesn't do any good. So Dallas is real good at helping us balance those checkbooks and keep our eye on the prize. So looking forward to it.
Great, and we can turn it over then to you, Dallas, and definitely a big thank you to Dusty for helping. You know, he's been our right-hand guy helping Montana get launched the way that it has. So we have a lot of thanks for him and the whole team. So we're super excited about all of this. And again, just want to thank everybody. So sorry that recording bumped in and out, but we will record this part and make sure if you have questions, again, just put them in the chat there and we'll make sure to keep track.
Cool. All right. Amy, is my presentation up?
Yeah, it looks great.
All right. Thanks. I appreciate the introductions, everybody. It's nice to get to know you a little bit and realize who's on the call. I too am a rancher. My wife and I, my family, we have a grazing operation outside of Wheatland, Wyoming. And I also run the company here, Branch Management Consultant. Some people have mentioned Dave. I appreciate that. Dave is my predecessor. I was actually with Dave last week. We were teaching a ranching for profit school in Rapid City, South Dakota. So it was fun to reconnect with him. He's still, he and I kind of traded places. I used to teach schools for him, and now he's teaching schools for me as the owner. So it's fun to keep him involved. I just want to dive right into it here and get going with you guys. My plan was to do about 30 to 40 minutes, walking through some thoughts to share with you. It might be a nice underpinning for a Q&A conversation that we can have and draw that out in a lot of different directions. For Audubon and the last several workshops, we've been focusing on grazing. And when I got together with the planning team here, they'd asked to focus on some transition questions around transitioning the business from a more typical cow-calf to selling wean calves operation to what it might look like to transition to a more grass finished operation, and what some of the questions underneath that might be. So that's where I've built this coming from. But as we dive into the Q&A, I'd love to dive into some of the grazing, soil health, some drought management aspects. We can have some conversations around that as well. Just a quick introduction to who we are. I think most of you are aware that we run the Ranching for Profit School. Ranching for Profit is a 7-day business management course for people in agriculture. It's founded on the idea that knowing how to raise livestock is not the same thing as knowing how to run a business that does those things. So we really dive into the business principles and applying them to an agriculture operation. And we found that when we do that, the profitability and enjoyment of those operations goes up substantially. So that's what Ranching for Profit is. We also run a program we call Executive Link. And if we want more, we can visit about that. The short version is we put people on boards of directors for each other, and those boards meet 3 times a year and look inside each other's businesses. But that's kind of the nuts and bolts of who we are. That's a snapshot of our client base from 1 year. This is the first year that I ran the company, the clients from that, and we've grown quite a bit the last couple of years. So now our client base would be even more dots on that map. But we have the fortune of working all over North America and get to see a lot of different ag operations. So it really gives us a good perspective of the challenges and struggles. And a lot of the things we teach, everything we teach is principle based. So we're going to talk about the understanding the principles, and then how do we apply those principles to the individual operations. So let's start with a scenario around transitioning. So this might be a scenario somebody's considered. They said, we're the 3rd generation managing our family's ranch in Montana. We run quality cattle and a tight operation, but things seem to get tighter financially as the years go on. With rising input costs and just the cost of living, the market prices for our cattle just don't seem to keep up. We're considering retaining our calves and entering into a grass finished program to capture a larger share of the consumer dollar. Do you have some clients who've had success in this business model? What are the keys to making this work? Bart McBeef wrote this, obviously, right? So this might be an underlying question that we might dive into. And let me show you some considerations of making this kind of transition. And to begin this conversation, let's start on some basic economics. And I love it that the 5th period ag class is in here because, guys, this is the heart of a lot of decision making that I think you should consider when doing things. And so looking at your basic economic model, if you were going to start a ranch from scratch today, you'd need a couple things, right? You'd need a place to operate on, and you'd need a labor force to do that. Now, if you happen to be fortunate to have some family land that you can start that, the considerations are still the same, right? There's value to that family land, and whether you're going to use it or somebody else is going to use it, there's monetary value to that, whether it actually costs you cash money or not. And that labor that's involved, you need to consider the cash value of that, even if it's donated family labor, even if you're making your kids do it, right? There is monetary value to that. So when we do economic considerations, we're going to consider all those values. And that first set of costs that we're talking about are overhead costs. And these are the costs that you see at the bottom down there, the number of units down here. Okay, so this would be the number of units in the operation. And then the dollar sign is the total amount of money out, or total value out. Okay, so overhead costs are really broken down into 2 categories. Okay, there's land cost and labor cost. Okay, so both land and labor cost are considered overhead cost. Now you'll see another thing about overheads is overheads tend not to change as the units of production increase. Okay, so if we're going to lease a ranch and we're going to get a unit of labor to work there, it's going to be about the same whether we put 5 cows on that piece of ground or 20 cows on that piece of ground. Okay, it's a land cost. So overheads tend not to change. And labor costs, if we're going to get somebody to come work for us, whether it's a day or a week or a month or a year, their labor rates are probably going to be dollars per day or dollars per year. Okay, so labor rates tend not to change as our units of production increase. Okay, so that's the first major cost, or these overhead costs. Now, the second type of costs are what we call direct cost. Okay, and direct costs, they're going to change incrementally as the units of production increase. So if this is 1 cow and this is 2 cows and this is 3 cows, every time we add a cow, the unit of production goes up, or that unit of that cost goes up by 1. Okay, so if you thought about what kind of costs are in these direct costs, the most common one most of you are going to think about would be feed, right? So feed, vet, any kind of vaccines, things like that. All of those costs are direct costs. As the units of production increase, those costs go up by 1. So what we've built here now is a total cost model, right? We've got our overhead costs, and then we've got the direct cost building on top of that. So the last piece we need on this is the value of our production. Okay, and we call that gross product. Gross product is the value of production. And it's called gross product because it counts even if we don't sell it. Okay, so if I produce a heifer calf and I choose to maintain that heifer calf into my herd, that calf counts as value. It doesn't matter if I turn it into cash or not, even if I keep that calf. So we need to look at all the value we produce, not just the cash income, okay, but all the value we produce. So gross product. So here we go. I had 1 cow that had 1 calf, and that was my total gross product. 2 cows, 2 calves. Here we go. So we go right up this line, and where those 2 lines part right there, that's the profit zone, right? So there's where gross product, the value of production, is exceeding the total cost. Okay, and on the left-hand side of that line, of course, that would be loss. And so right there is the break-even point. Now, the break-even point gets a lot of attention, but we don't spend a lot of time at Ranching for Profit focusing on break-even. Okay, what's the problem with focusing on break-even? Well, if that's where you focus, what are you likely to do? Right, you're likely to break even. So we say this is not ranching for breaking even. This is ranching for profit. So we need to establish whatever the point is for you somewhere out here in this profit zone, okay, as your target. Okay, now that's going to vary depending on, maybe your profit target is right here, right? If you could cover all of your costs and have a little bit to set aside, maybe you'd be plenty happy. Okay, maybe you're trying to buy a place from the people who came before you or from somebody else. So maybe your profit target needs to be way out here. Okay, but whatever that is, you need to establish where that profit target is and then design your business to achieve it. Okay, so it's really an exercise in reverse engineering that business. So let's go back to the letter and apply this model to that letter and to the questions that they're asking. Okay, now I need to give you one more tool before we go back to that. You see this zone in here, this gross product and profitability. See how it's really tied into the relationship of these 2 lines, this line going up here and this line going here. Okay, so what we call that is gross margin. Okay, now if you guys have, some of you guys said you've read our stuff and followed our stuff, you hear a lot of talk about gross margin. Okay, let's define it real quick. Gross margin is simply gross product minus direct costs. Okay, so we take the total gross product and we subtract out the direct costs, and that gives us gross margin. Okay, you can think of gross margin as the money left over to service overheads, okay, service these overheads and for profit, right? It's going to service those overhead costs and for profit. Okay, so gross margin is a really important number, and as we go into this, you're going to realize why. So let's jump forward here a little bit. So this ranch that was writing that letter to ask the questions. Okay, as I think about this ranch, if we actually took this ranch and looked at it from an economic perspective, this is the way we'd look at this ranch. Okay, now too often in ranching, we think, well, I've raised this calf, or I've got this cow, and maybe she come up open, or maybe I've got this calf at the end of the year, and maybe I could create value by just keeping that calf and running it another year and turning it into a yearling. And then As it's a yearling and it's weighing 800-900 pounds, I think, well, maybe I should put some grass finish on that calf, and then maybe sell it to friends and family as beef, right? And so we make these decisions just kind of, well, I've got this, maybe I should do this. Well, when this rancher is asking me the questions that they're asking in this letter, this is how I'm thinking of their business. Okay, and I want to walk through this a little bit so you understand what my thought around this is. So really wrapped up inside of this ranch, they've got a lot of different enterprises, right? They're doing a lot of different things. And we need to figure out what in their business is working and what is not working. Okay? In most agriculture operations, there is something that's going on inside of that business that is losing money. Okay, now it might be hard to believe that, but it's true. In most agriculture businesses, something inside of that business is not profitable. It's actually having more cost than value it's creating. Okay, so in order to find that out, we need to start breaking things apart. Now, this is what we call an enterprise analysis, right? We're going to break each enterprise inside the ranch into its own enterprise, and then do some economic analysis to figure out what's creating value and where are costs occurring. Okay, so in this first one, that we're going to take their cow-calf business. These are their cows that are producing wean calves, and also there's cull cows leaving, there's replacement cows coming in. Well, we're going to take that business and figure out what's the gross product. Remember, GP is gross product, okay, and gross product is what the value of production. Okay, so we take the gross product minus the direct costs, and that leaves us with the gross margin. Okay. We're going to do that with their cow-calf business. We're going to say how much is left over to gross product minus direct costs. We're going to do that. We can break that heifers apart. So if they've got cow-calf and they're raising their own heifers, well, then really what they have is a heifer development enterprise, right? And so we're going to see how good are they at making bred heifers. So we're going to calculate out the gross margin of that. If they're running calves over as yearlings, we're going to calculate out the gross margin of those yearling calves. And then maybe they're taking those yearling calves, those 8-9 weight yearlings, and they're taking them up to 1,200 pounds as like a grass finisher, or even 1,000 pounds. Okay. So we're going to call those a finishing animal. Okay. So we're going to calculate out the gross margin of that. Now we add up all these gross margins to say, how's my livestock division doing? Okay. In terms of gross margin. So that's what we're doing here, is adding all those up. Now over here, these guys have been selling some meat, some beef to friends and family, right? They've got some that's hanging on the rail, or maybe they're selling it as quarters, halves, and wholes, or maybe they're even doing packages, right? Where you pick up a mixed box of ground beef and steaks. Okay. Well, really what we have is we have a meat marketing division. Right. And when we say a division from one thing next, this is on the left side of this line is a livestock division. And on the right side of the line is a meat marketing business. Okay. You have very different things and different skill sets to raise livestock than you do to sell meat. Okay. They're two very different businesses. But so as we break those things apart, we need to look at them as two separate businesses. Okay. So just like we did with the livestock, and if somebody's into farming, these same principles apply. We could take each crop and break it out as an enterprise and see where we're creating value. But back to this meat marketing division. So we sold gross product. That would be the total dollars of meat that we sold. We're going to subtract out our direct costs. So this would be the cost of processing, the cost of hauling the animals to the processor, picking up the product, bringing it back, delivering it to the customers, right? Total direct costs. So there's a gross margin, money left over to service overheads. Okay. Now we take this gross margin and we add it to the livestock division gross margin. And then we subtract out our overheads and we see how the business is doing. Okay. So this is what, when somebody says, well, should I be doing that? Or should I be doing this? This is what I start doing in my mind, is breaking apart that business into these different enterprises and seeing where we're creating value and where are costs occurring. Now let's look at what this ranch looks like. Okay, these are some numbers that might be typical of what a ranch that's doing this might show. Okay, so here we've got cow-calf that are doing 250 gross margin per head. The heifers, maybe we're really good at making heifers. They're doing $300. The yearlings, 125. These finishers, 250. And my meat marketing division, I'm clearing $1,500 from every animal I put through that. But you see down here, I'm only doing 15 head. Okay. So if I take all these gross margins, my cows, I've got 200 of them in this example. So they're creating $50,000 of gross margin. My heifers, I've only got 30 of them, but I'm really good at doing them. They're making 9,000. My yearlings, my finishers, and my meat sales. Okay, I've got a total gross margin of 102,000. But then I look here and I see my overhead costs. And think of your overhead costs. This is the cost of keeping the doors open in your business. Okay, so it's going to be your salary as an owner. It's going to be any land rents, any kind of machinery, depreciation, repairs, right? So this is actually a pretty small number for a business this size, a place running about 300 and something animals, right? 150,000 is pretty small for that. So we see that business made a profit, or in this case, a loss of $48,000. Okay, now if we were looking at this and they said, well, what would be ways I could create more value in this business? We might look inside of it and say, you know what, these cows, most of our resources are going to these 200 cows. Okay, and in terms of creating value, the gross margin they're making per head is only $250. Okay, now we see that most of our value is created out here in the meat marketing division. This $1,500 per head. Okay. Well, what if I could free up some resources from these cows? What if I could outsource input of either these yearlings or these finishers into this business and have a lot more time and energy to focus on turning the crank on this? Okay, that might be one way to look at it. So again, these numbers I'm using are made up. They're to prove a point. They're an example. If we looked at your numbers might be completely flip-flop from these, okay? Maybe your meat marketing division is terrible. Maybe your cows are ringing the bell, okay? So please don't take what I'm about to show you and say, this is what Dallas suggests we do. Okay, I'm suggesting that you look at your numbers and you figure out where you're creating value. Okay, but for these guys, let's say they said, boy, we really want to upscale this meat marketing division. We think we can find cattle that fit our needs, that we can input into this in these ranges. We can get rid of these and get rid of these, clear up some space on the ranch to turn the crank on this. Let's see what it might look like. Okay, so if we did that, now we've cleared up some space. We can run 300 head of these yearlings. We'll keep those that we like into next year, have 200 of those finishers to make. Of those finishers that we make, we think we can market 150 through our meat marketing division. Okay, so now we're actually doing less. So no more cows, no more heifer development. We're actually doing less. We're just doing it at scale. We're doing the things at scale that actually work. Okay, and we see down here we've produced a total gross margin of $312,000. Okay, we've still got our overheads of 150,000, but now we've got a profit of 162,000 instead of a loss. So that was a substantial turnaround, right? It's a turnaround of almost $200,000. And we've actually simplified the business. Okay, we've identified those things that's working, and now we're doing those things well and at scale. Okay. So again, the point isn't that you should do yearlings, you should do finishers, you should do meat. Okay, I don't know what your margins are on here. They might be very different. But the point is, if we looked inside of this business, inside of this ranch that was taking everything all the way from the cow all the way to meat delivered to a customer, inside of that business, there's some things that are working and working well, and there's some things that are just creating work for the labor units on the place. Okay, so that's how we break the economics apart of a question related to should we transition to something like a direct grass fed. So just some thoughts more for you on this. When we look at considerations for a transition, we're going to look at the current economics. So we just did that. We looked at the business, laid out the business. What does it currently look like? Then we'd run some projections and say, okay, if we made this transition, what do we think it might look like, right? What kind of costs might we have? What things might incur? Additional overheads is a big question. So in this business we just looked at, we went from selling 20 a year to selling 150 a year. Do you think we're going to need some stuff to do that? Okay, I think so. We probably need some freezers. Maybe if we were storing product at home, maybe we're going to need a delivery truck. Maybe we're going to need a whole website and somebody to run it. Maybe we're going to need a social media presence, right? What are these additional overheads that we're going to have by transitioning the business? Okay, now this question could be transitioned from, cows to stockers. It could be from one crop to another crop. These are just basic questions we'd ask if we were looking to make a change. On this direct marketing thing, I have a point I wanted to bring up. There is a tipping point of scale, I think, on these businesses. We see a lot of client businesses that sell a few animals to friends and family, right? And you really don't need a very complicated business to do that, right? If you're just selling people's quarters, halves, and wholes, and they're putting their name on the list and they're dealing with the butcher shop, or maybe you're delivering them a box, right? That's a fairly simple business. At some point, if you look to scale this up, the business transitions to being a very complicated business. And just want to caution you on this, if this is something you're thinking of doing. Once you transition to a certain number, I'm not sure what that number is for you, you're going to need inventory management tools. You're probably going to need some direct sales tools of maybe a website platform that handles like a shopping cart and inventory, right? And then all your shipping protocols that go on underneath that. And it can become a very complicated business to where it pretty much needs a full-time person devoted to it, or database tools or website tools, things like that. So just be careful that just because it's working with selling 10 to 12 beef a year to friends and family, that doesn't mean that's what the same business is going to look like if you scaled that up to selling 100 head a year, right? I think those businesses look quite a bit different. And then I think another thing to say is, does this align with who we are and what we're passionate about? And I think too often some people say, well, we should be selling direct because the market's not right, or there's more money there. Those really aren't very good reasons to sell direct, right? I think if you're going to sell direct to somebody, it needs to be because I really enjoy working with these customers, and I really feel like I'm filling a niche and I'm serving a need for this, and I'm passionate about it, and this lights my fire. I get out of bed in the morning excited to serve this client. We have a lot of people that get into ranching partly because they don't like people, right? So if you get into ranching because you don't like people, you probably don't want to make a business out of dealing with people all the time, every day. So just a consideration there. So I wanted to spend most of the time with you guys going through some Q&A stuff. Most of these workshops we've been focusing on the cell grazing principles that we teach at Ranching for Profit. I just want to drop these out here that might be some good fodder for Q&A during our Q&A session. When we talk about the cell grazing principles, these are the 5 that we cover. Number 1 is let the plants fully recover, the rest or recovery. Let the plants have the rest required so that they can fully recover. And that depends on the rate of growth. Okay, so that growth rate is going to be variable. So the recovery period needs to be variable as well. Number 2 is keep graze periods short to improve animal performance. Okay, so we need to have adequate rest periods. And then when plants are grazed, we need to have fairly short graze periods. Those short graze periods can do a variety of things for us. And one of those things is to improve animal performance through that. Use the highest stock density practical it will increase the uniformity of pastures. That's your biggest tool, I think, to jumpstart soil health, to jumpstart successions of landscapes is this tool of stock density. So it's really a beautiful, handy tool. And another thing that goes along with that is using the largest herd consistent with good animal husbandry. And then lastly, the 5th principle is fluctuating the stocking rate to match the carrying capacity. These are not static things. They're always constantly moving things, and you need a business model that matches those for your environment. And so I think we'll let those be some underlying for our discussions. But just a few things that we do. Of course, we put out a profit tips once every 2 weeks. We have a first steps program that's free to sign up for. We've got our Facebook, YouTube, all the different social medias. There was a gentleman that mentioned he'd had our book. We do have a couple of books on our website, as well as a DVD, or it can be a downloadable video from our website. that gives you a taste of what we teach at the school. And of course, we'd love to invite people to take and repeat Ranching for Profit, and after they do that, to join Executive Link. So, so I'm going to stop the video share, and we can jump on and have some Q&A. And I look forward to diving in deeper with you guys.